pre-season race. My name is Cheryl Shaft. I am actually a racer in Tier 2, commentating today for, let's just call it admin reasons. And alongside me, I've got Mr. Hex. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Awesome. If you don't mind, just ping in the Discord a link to the live stream whilst I waffle for a couple of minutes to fill up the time. Hopefully we can get this all sorted through. For those watching currently, do not be fooled by the qualifying time. We are on about 5 minutes or so left of qualifying, so completely ignore that. But as I mentioned, this is pre-season, so this is kind of a tester race for these guys, just in their new teams, getting themselves sorted, testing the aerodynamics, all of that junk. Hopefully getting themselves prepared for next week race round 1 in Austria, which should be very exciting. A bunch of changes in teams. Majority of these drivers have changed in teams. We've got a few new drivers on the scene as well. So Goldmere, we've got Jimmy Pullup, we've got Zero Crew, and we've also got all your lovely favourites from Tier 2. Archie Gill, Rusty Oil Can, Green Hornet, the sort that you love. We've also got Mo Power, who's joined us from Tier 1. Exciting to see what he gets up to this season, and we will hopefully have a very exciting year for you. 16 rounds this year, this season I should say, so a bit shorter than last season, condensed down, so we should get hopefully closer season standings come the end of the season. But all that said and done, how are you feeling, Mr. Hex? You are a Tier 2 alumni, came third last season, got promoted up to Tier 1. How do you think Tier 2 is going to stand, and how do you think, from your experience, these drivers are going to cope with it?
Yeah, it's very interesting to see, coming now being an outside perspective, not racing with these guys. Given I feel like I know a lot about how these guys really run. I know their strengths, their weaknesses, and I can tell you a lot of these guys have a lot of talent. And I'm very excited to see what they can do without a lot of the big name guys that left for Tier 1, such as myself, Ghetto, Rally.
Yeah, oh well, I mean, any favourites? What sort of drivers do you think we're going to see? I mean, even the ones that aren't here today in the pre-season testing, what sort of names are you expecting to see near the top of the season come the end?
I'm going to be a little biased when I say this, but my teammate for the last 3 races or so, Marky, who's currently on pole, he helped a lot. He showed a lot of pace, but he seems to be a little bit inconsistent at times. I know when in Coda he got a little bit of penalties, and that kind of held him back, and then Brazil, the last race, got into a little bit of trouble and kind of held him up a bit in the sense of being able to get a really good finish. But he's got a lot of speed. Yeah,
that's a really good point. Even though he isn't technically a new driver this year, he is still relatively new to the league, and I think he's got a lot to prove. So definitely one to keep an eye on, and definitely one that could bring out some great performances this year and potentially fighting for the title. I mean, it's also worth noting the highest ranked driver in Tier 2 for the draft this year was Rusty Oil Can. I believe he finished 4th last year, so if he can maintain that sort of form, we would hope to see him near the top as well. He is a veteran of this league and someone that is definitely improving season on season.
Yeah, Rusty, he's also got a lot of pace, but his biggest strength is being consistent. You never see him get a lot of penalties. You never see him really get into trouble. He's always just consistent. He's really good at that.
Yeah, and hopefully if that consistency is of kind of the highest pace, we will hopefully seeing him challenge for the title. Because, I mean, again, to fight bias with bias, I am a Tier 2 driver. I will be there next week in Austria, so hopefully my name will be near the top of the standings coming into the season as well. But I guess from a neutral perspective, we'd love to see a tight title challenge. You know, I mean, fair play to Ghetto Biggie last year, great driving, but he kind of started to run away with it towards the end. His consistency and his pace just got a bit too much, I think, for the competition. So hopefully this year, from a spectator standing, we can get some close racing, and hopefully the Titans calendar as well will mean that there's less opportunity for people to pull away.
Yeah, and definitely back on Ghetto. He was just so fast and consistent every race. I remember in Portimao going there, safety car, I decided to pick going onto the soft, and it was to do a different strategy than him because I knew he was going to pull away, and it was just to do something different. And the amount of consistency and speed he had through that entire run was just astounding. And I mean, there was nothing else you could do to beat it.
I think that's going to be the main point. I mean, we see a lot of these drivers, not just in tier 2, but in many of the different tiers, that have got fantastic, 1-lap pace. They qualify high up on a regular, but then when it comes to the race and that consistency that's needed, it can cause those problems. So I think those drivers that can kind of follow in Ghetto's footsteps would definitely be the ones in a good stead.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, props to him, but I mean, like I said, especially looking at the qualifying now, a lot of these guys...
Oh, we've lost Mr. Hex. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, might get out of it. But yeah, a lot of these guys are close in qualifying, so I mean...
We'll just quickly go through the qualifying. I've got 10 seconds to read through, so I'm going to speed read this. We've got Mo Power on pole, Goldmere second, Archie Gill, Marky Coastick, Rusty 5th, Zero Crew 6th, Tar4 7th, Jimmy 8th, Green Hornet 9th, Tack 10th, Chaos Druid 11th, Tar Heels 12th, and Tack Delta will be starting on the mediums in 10th. Oh, sorry, I had to paste that just before it left the screen. But we got there in the end. I mean, as I said, this is the pre-season practice race, so I imagine some of these drivers aren't necessarily showing everything yet. Might just be kind of getting into grips with their new cars. Yeah, getting used to it. So we won't pay too much attention to the qualifying pace of these guys. I guess the important thing, as we've just been talking about, I guess with the consistency, it'll be good to know which of these drivers can maintain that consistency in this race. It'll be a good idea and a good stead for the ones to watch this season. Got some people in the chat. We'll just give them a shout whilst we're waiting for the drivers to line up. Yes, Tambar, that is myself commentating. I'm not able to race today, but I am able to help, so here I am. We've got Suzuki in the chat. We've got Ankbank. That's season. We're in season 4. Are we in season 4 now?
I thought we were in season 3.
We're in season. No, season 4. This is season 4 now. So yes, season 3's tier 1 winner, Ankbank, in the chat. And yeah. Oh, good. Exciting to see. It looks like the weather is not the clearest, which is interesting for these guys.
Looks awfully cloudy.
It does. It might be threatening some rain, yeah. But here we go.
Tier 1, it was awfully cloudy, which made the track a lot colder, and it was very interesting to drive. Car felt a lot more slidey than it usually would.
Well, it'll be interesting if there is some rain, how it affects these guys, especially with their, whatever their plans are today, whether they are, as you say, just kind of dusting off, whether that affects their plans going into this. But looks clear for now. Might mean these drivers get their tyres a little bit further than they were planning. So yeah, all that said and done, Mo Power, who dropped down last season from tier 1 to tier 2, just like myself, has taken the pre-season pole, which puts him in good stead. I mean, I guess that's another driver to watch. How do you think, Mr. Hex, how do you think Mo Power is going to fare this season, and what do you think of the things he needs to focus on?
Obviously, focusing on being around faster guys in tier 1. Like, you can come here and do a lot more different things. Obviously, you'll have it's going to be a very different approach than what you would probably be if you're a newer guy that just entered the league.
Mm.
Because with more power,
he's got more experience, I guess, to work from. And I guess also, as you say, he's been driving with quicker drivers. He needs to adjust relatively quickly to, I guess, some of the driving standards. He might find that some of these drivers brake a little earlier than he's expecting. They might be maybe a little rasher than he expects. So I think it's going to be important for him to adjust as quickly as he can to the subtle differences in driving styles, which I can imagine from tier 2 to tier 1 can be a bit of a change.
Yeah. Especially like the different driving style, like maybe one guy's aggressive and the other one's not.
Mm.
So it's like it could be a very much different approach to how some guy, like, especially in tier 1, one guy might be aggressive and Cowboy might have been around them a lot. Well, down here he may be around someone who's not as aggressive, who's not going to take a dive down the inside like someone else would.
Very much so. Well, as we see these drivers now pulling on to the back of the grid, looks like the AI of Markey, who I think might have had a bit of a connection issue, just pulling on now. But I believe the drivers' tyres don't cool down whilst they're waiting on the grid, so not too much of a problem. But we'll soon be getting away any second now. Here we go. Drivers on the grid live. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Held for way too long. Out and away we go here. Season 4 pre-season race.
Bunch up at the back.
Oh, it's had a big bunch up. Looks like the Mercedes of Markey. I guess it's the connection issues caused a bit of a problem there.
It doesn't look like he can go. It looks like he's stuck in neutral.
I'm not sure what's happened there. It has meant that some of the drivers towards the back have had an issue and have got caught up. Jimmy Pull-Up, I think, has had a bit of an issue, yes. But in terms of the front of the drive, Mo Power's got away brilliantly and has already pulled away with 2.5 seconds. Archie Gill's moved up to 2nd. Chaos Druids moved up to 6th place. Tar Heels also managing to profit from that early technical issue with Markey. But very chaotic start. I don't know, did you see exactly what happened, Markey? Was it mistakes? Was it
just looked like he didn't go? Like maybe an issue with being able to go.
And it looks like he's left the session. Yeah, definitely some technical issues for him. As we see, Mo Power's clearly in the lead, but from 2nd down to 5th, it is very close, very tight, very clean right now. But
and there goes the Alfa Romeo.
That does go the Alfa. I mean, Rusty recovered that incredibly. How he didn't have a full spin, I do not know. He does. Tarful just going a bit wide there. Fair play. I mean, that is the mark of a seasoned veteran, when you have a small mistake like that and you resolve it as quickly as you do. Yeah, minimal penalty for that mistake, so fair play to him. As we see, so Mo Power with the fastest lap. I mean, he is in 1st place, so it is expected, but his gap is already up to almost 3 seconds. A fantastic statement the Red Bull is pulling down for this race. I mean, France is not in the season calendar, so if this is just a one-off, then bad news for him, but it's a good sign ahead for him.
And it might not be super bad news, because it might show us that he's knocked off all of the rust entering the race. So he might be the most ready in terms of...
Definitely. And it's also good news, I guess, if you're Green Hornet, looking at your teammate that far ahead is a good sign for the constructors. I mean, that's, I guess, another thing to think about from the constructors' perspective. It's all well and good if you've got one driver who's putting down good markers, put good points, showing good pace, but as a collective, it's all about both drivers cashing in. And so, yeah, with a big mix-up and all the tier 2 drivers pretty much changing teams, I don't think there was too many people maintaining. I know Rusty was in the Alfa Romeo last season, and first pick in the draft he chose Alfa again, but I think a lot of the other drivers have moved around. I don't know if, from your limited knowledge, Mr. Hex, you have any early constructor favourites?
I'm gonna go Alpha Tower with second and fifth here. I mean, they're looking pretty good.
I mean, it is worth noting, again, pardon the bias, but both Williams drivers not racing this season. You know, we're who knows what pace we've got?
The Alfa Romeos.
Is the Alpha Tauri has spun around? You curse them.
Commentators curse.
Commentators curse. Tough for spinning round, unfortunately, but still in the race. Has got a penalty. 3 drivers already with those early penalties. Also interesting with the tyre strategy as well. So you've got Chaos Druid and Tech Delta on the medium tyres. I don't know if for Tier 1 many people... I think there's someone who went hard medium. I do know you can do a soft medium in France, but it does require a lot of tyre management. So I imagine the drivers on the softs will either be going for a soft hard or a soft medium, as Tar4 skips the chicane entirely. How did the tyre strategy go down in Tier 1, Mr. X?
I started back in I think around 11th, 12th, so I went on the mediums, and I noticed around lap 4 those soft tires were really kind of just falling off hard, like, and my mediums were up to speed, and I was just gaining around half a second a lap and really just getting it there. And my teammate Jesper, who started on the hards, that was probably the best strategy from what I saw out there, just going on the mediums and really making sure those tires were just able to keep the grip and you know.
So I guess that's from I guess that's from Chaos Druid and Tech Delta today. Then it's just more of a case of biding your time and just waiting for those softs to drop off in a couple of laps time, when you can really start cashing in on your tyres, I imagine. Looks like also great early start for Goldmere as well. New this season to PRL. I believe going to be a reserve coming into this season, not able to commit to a full-time drive, but definitely showing some good early signs. Currently sitting in P3 for the Alpine team. As we see, is that Chaos Druid? Oh, Chaos Druid, the other Alpine, has a little bit of a spin in the chicane, which is not a good one, but again, not too destructive to his race. Also getting a comment from Tambar, who finished second to Ankbank last season in Tier 1. Famously had a, I believe, the 10th place constructors last season, AlphaTauri, just sharing that if they do good this year, he might just cry, having had such a chaotic season last season. Which constructor were you with last season?
In Tier 2?
Yes.
I was in Red Bull.
You're in Red Bull. How did Red Bull do? I can't remember how they were. Were they third? I believe. I think they did quite well.
We were fourth. I think.
Were you fourth? Ah, yes, you were. Because us in Williams, we leapfrogged you. I think in the last couple of races into third. But you had a decent team, didn't you? I think you had. Who'd you have in Premier? You had Adri in Premier.
Adri, Grack.
And then Tier 1, you had Suzuki and someone else. Mopower, that's it. And then Tier 2 was yourself and Marky, I guess, for the end of the season.
Yeah, it was Marky,
wow.
And then beginning of the season it was Joe.
Wow, that's interesting. So this year in Williams, we've got Adri in Premier and we've got Suzuki in Tier 1. So we've poached a couple of your drivers from last season.
I mean, I switched over to the rival team of Red Bull Mercedes.
You have
However,
indeed.
the love is still there.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for me, having raced with Williams last season and now committing to Williams again this season. If for season 5 I have to switch constructors, I think it's going to be quite heartbreaking for me. Let's have a look. Let's check in on these guys. And Archie Gill jumping into the pits already. That screams two-stop strategy to me.
Yeah. Looks like he's going on the mediums.
Yeah, it's going to be a soft, medium, soft, I imagine. There we go, as he falls back to, it's going to be 6th position, 7th, it's into 8th.
Right behind his teammate.
Yeah, teammate managing to get that position just in time. Early stop into the mediums, so should be able to leapfrog, potentially.
In contact with his teammate.
Oh, and a bit of shunt at the back. That's not going to do his rear wing any good. Oh, Tamba, if you're watching, the AlphaTauri curse still exists. And yeah, it's not going to do Archie any good at all.
Move down the inside on his teammate and just a
Mm.
little bit of contact.
And that's just wiped out any advantage that early pit stop might give him, unfortunately for him. As we see, so the front 3 still on the softs. It'd be interesting to see how long they try and push those for. And then that will eventually release one of... Well, it will release Tac Delta, I imagine. I can't imagine Tar Heels making up 5 seconds in the next 5 laps. Who will then have fresh air on his mediums to really try and make the most of them. I mean, how long are we expecting the mediums to last, realistically?
I would say around lap 10, 11 is when they would last. You get a couple laps on those after the softs in front of you, Pit, and you're really, you should be golden.
Good to know. So
I mean, Mopao is already a pit stop outside of his teammate in second.
that is ridiculous. The pace of this man. Is this just France, or is this just a... I mean, I know he was demoted from Tier 1, but he wasn't exactly storming it in Tier 1, so... No idea what's going on, but fair play to him.
He's only got half of a battery left, so he can... I mean,
Indeed. Wow.
It's just crazy.
That is crazy. Well, I mean, you have to say from this, I know we're missing half the grid, who will be there with us next week, but from this race alone, Mopao has already gone into my pre-season favourite. I mean, this is incredible.
Oh, a yellow flag into the back chicane. That looks like Chaos Druid.
We've got a few drivers, so Rusty, Chaos Druid and Archie all bunched up a little bit. Coming through now.
The two former teammates right in front of each other. Archie and Rusty.
They are indeed, yeah. Rusty was very, very complimentary of Archie as a teammate last season. Was just expressing how helpful he was, how he really helped Rusty to that 4th place finish last year. Archie, however, therefore finishing top 10, wasn't able to be in the same team, so it'll be interesting to see how they both flourish now as the first drivers of their respective teams, and whether they're able to maintain the same level of performance. We've got Grack in the comments suggesting Mopao might need a drug test, which is an interesting proposal. I'm also wary because I do know that Mopao was the one that requested the demotion, so I'm wary to comment too much considering I did exactly the same thing, and so I don't want to put myself in a bad situation.
On Tar Heels.
He does get the move done as well. Tar Heels not able to fight back at this stage. Archie does have newer tyres, so a bit more grip to work with. I mean, Goldmire in effectively P2, so Mopao is now pitting onto the mediums, so the true distance that he's created will be coming around soon once he's out the pits and we can see his difference compared to Goldmire. And here we go. Green Hornet pits, the last of the soft drivers. And there we go. So that is... how many seconds we talking? 13 seconds in 9 laps.
That's
Wow.
just crazy.
That is just crazy. Ooh.
Oh, and Marky DNF.
Marky did DNF. He's gone into the wall. Was that into the wall? Was that? Yeah, that is into the wall. I mean, we've got yellow flags in sector 3. Doesn't look like there's a safety car yet. And there's a lot of runoff in France, so sometimes there can be a reluctance to send out a safety car. Don't think there will be. No. So we're back to green lights on the whole track. Unlucky from Marky. Not the best pre-season test race, but it is pre-season, so hopefully it doesn't affect his confidence too much. Tamba suggesting if myself and Mopower are 10 seconds ahead of the field, then the whole system is messed. I would say, Tamba, that the suggestion that I can mirror Mopower's pace just because he and I were both in Tier 1 last season is very misplaced. I do not have confidence in replicating this level of speed, especially with my switch from the pads to the wheel and dropping from full traction to 0 traction control. So yeah, don't get your hopes up is all I'm saying.
Gold looking down the inside of TAC Delta here.
He is. He's got to be aware. Oh, I was going to say he's got to be aware of Archie behind him, but Archie was just spun.
Flag.
Yeah.
Oh, Archie's spun.
He has. AlphaTauri's just struggling with the grip a little bit. As Goldmire goes down the inside of TAC Delta. It's a great move. Moves into 2nd position. And that is solid. TAC Delta will have DRS behind him.
Make the move down the inside or really just stay? He will just stay.
He will just stay.
Oh,
Not the
DNF.
That is 0 crew.
That's on the back stretch. Right. Is that hitting the wall? It is.
Very strange.
No.
Was that hitting the wall?
Yeah.
Or did he retire on track?
Yeah, he didn't have a wheel.
Oh, okay. Oh, Archie Gill spinning again in sector 3, which means we've got a double yellow. Still no safety car yet, though.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, very surprising.
10 seconds for exceeding track limits.
Ooh, interesting.
So that will give him... How many penalties? I will give him 10 seconds.
That is a 10-second, which means he's up to, 10 seconds. And Tarful 12 seconds. The AlphaTauri's got 22 seconds between them. Not a good
pre-season. Looks like he's struggling.
He is.
Maybe the tires are overheating.
I think they are. It seems like the AlphaTauri Season 4 car is having some tyre grip problems, which hopefully they can get ironed out next week. As we see, the closest battle on track at the moment has not really won. I mean, we've got Jimmy Pull Up in 9th behind Green Hornet. We've also got Chaos Druid and Rossi Oil Can just outside DRS, but pretty spaced out so far for these guys. I mean, in terms of kind of strategy and tactics, again, for yourself, just coming off the back of your pre-season race, how did you approach it? Were you thinking from a performance level, trying to see where you are standing, or was it more just as you've put it yourself, just blowing the dust off and kind of getting back into the swing of things?
It was a little bit of both. I know qualifying, like I said, I qualified around 11th, 10th, 13th, just around that area, so I wanted to try something a different strategy, starting on the mediums, going to the hards, because I know in last season down here in Tier 2, a lot of people stuck to the same strategy no matter the position, starting on the soft and going on to something different. So I wanted to try something different, get I guess a feel of how a different strategy might work, and then just seeing where I stack up pace-wise. than a
Yes.
lot of these other guys.
So you weren't too concerned with performance, was it? Just kind of a marker for you to understand where you are at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Looks like we've got Tar Heels has jumped into the pits, the first medium runner to do so. Moved on to the softs, which is interesting, which suggests he's going to do 2 soft tyre runs, probably 7 laps each, 7-8 laps. Tac Delta and Chaos Druid, the only 2 still on their original tyres, both on the mediums, 11 laps old. So I am assuming at this stage, unless they pit now, they're both probably going to go for the one-stop medium hard.
I'm pretty sure you could. Oh, another Rusty out right in front of Tac.
Just lost the rear end. I imagine that's him into the wall as well. We're just on board with Chaos Druid to get a view. Yeah, it's exactly where Zero Crew
Marky.
lost it. Oh no, yeah, that was Marky. Sorry, yeah, Zero Crew was on the DRS straight. So 2 drivers losing the rear end. I mean, very surprising. I mean, Rusty was showing great pace and famed for his consistency. Just a moment lapse of concentration for him, unfortunately.
As Tac Delta will come into the pits and he will go on the hard, so that's going to
That's
the
going
end.
to the
Also,
end.
Chaos Droid coming in, also more than likely onto the hards to the end.
Yes. Well, what that does mean then, if Tac Delta is going to be going to the end, Mo Power will likely need to do another pit stop. I can't imagine him getting 18 laps at the mediums. I mean, he could do. Depends how much he looks after them. But assuming he is going to pit again.
I know in last season in France, my teammate Joe at the time, he started on the softs and he went 18 laps on the softs. So
18 laps on the
counting.
softs?
Yeah.
Seriously?
It was either 18 laps on the softs or mediums, because
Must have been the mediums. I don't think it's humanly possible. I did a soft medium last season, and I think you can, after about 14 laps, they are like 80% level, and that was with heavy tyre management. So I would be gobsmacked if he did 18 on the softs. That would be incredible.
So it's possible to do it.
Well, I mean, I guess to add some excitement to this race, I'm just thinking if Mopar is to pit again, and we say what the pit stop is, 20 seconds, 21 seconds. I mean, he's almost 2 pit stops ahead of Tac. He's over 2 pit stops, 2.5 pit stops ahead of Tac Delta in 5th, who's now clear through. I mean, that's incredible.
I mean, just it's looking like the sun's getting ready to come out, so the track should be warming up now.
Indeed, yes.
Another yellow flag. Looks like the Season4 and the AlphaTauri having this moment.
Very much so. I'm also getting comments on my long questions. Yes, I can sometimes, when commentating, get very long-winded questions. Let me think of a short question to counteract it now. What's your favourite track, Mr. Hex?
That's a tough one. I'd say my favorite track is probably Azerbaijan or Bahrain.
Yes, 2 very popular tracks, I believe. I believe Bahrain was the most voted for track this season, which is very interesting.
It's just one of those tracks. I feel like it was the track I came in on when I joined. It was my first race here, and it was just a track I always felt comfortable doing. A lot of long straights and DRS zones, winding curves, and a couple hairpins. It's just one of those tracks that's very well rounded, in my opinion.
It has got a bit of everything, hasn't it? It's got 3 DRS, as you said. It's got really tight corners. It's got some camber. Yeah, it's a good test for most people.
And for my Azerbaijan pick, I've always had a fascination with street circuits. Just the thrill of having a harder time overtaking, for me, it's just something that puts excitement into it.
Yeah, and who doesn't love that castle section? I mean, it's iconic. Every lap is a lottery.
I've seen a lot of chaos in Castle. I've been in a lot of chaos in Castle.
Yep. I can only pray that we don't decide. I believe, I need to confirm this, but I believe we are going full ghosting on this season across the tiers.
Yeah.
So let's just pray that that's still in place when it comes to Baku.
Don't want someone sideways in Castle.
No, not well, unless you're in front of them and it just blocks up the entire field.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Yes, I believe. Yeah, Bahrain will be round 16 this season. Baku, I believe, is round 13 this season. Don't worry, I'm not that much of a nerd memorising it. It's just because I made the calendar graphic, so I've looked at it many times.
Probably my favorite track that wasn't picked. Call me a little biased, but Coda, USA.
Yes, I had a few disgruntled comments about the lack of Kota. Oh, it looks like we got Tar 4. That is, I mean, he's been flirting with it all race. He's had a number of spins. That's him into the wall. We've still not had a safety car. We've got a double yellow in sectors 2 and 3.
Not even a VSC.
No. Looks like people seem to be crashing exactly where the cars can be removed. So we're still clear, but we're down to 8 drivers now. Very interesting. I imagine the admins are going to have a bit of a conversation about Mo Power with this sort of pace. I mean, this feels like it's, you know, challenging for the win in Tier 1 sort of pace.
Yeah.
As we see...
Another yellow flag and...
Yes.
Straight.
I believe that's Jimmy Pull-Up getting lapped.
He's getting a yellow for him.
Yes. Lap 17 to 27. Interesting. So... just have a review then. So we've got Mo Power in the lead, light years ahead of everyone, already lapped the back of the field. We've got Goldmeyer, the reserve, just now pitting, I believe, onto his mediums, which should take him through to the end from here. Archie Gill also doing the same. Interesting whether he goes for the aggressive softs or he sticks with the mediums. I imagine no need to go too aggressive where he is. And yeah, moving on to a second set of mediums. Tac Delta therefore will move into third position, and Archie will be now tasked with hunting him down for that pre-season podium.
Now, something interesting. I was looking at the gap to the leader, and from third to 7th, they're about a minute back from Mo Power.
Wow.
And Gold is 50 seconds outside of the leader.
Wow, yeah, Gold. It's a question now. I mean, Green Hornet in 7th is soon to be lapped by Mo Power. There's no reason to think Mo Power might not. He might be able to lap up to 3rd. He might be lapping a podium at this speed.
He can spin 20 times and still win.
No, that would make it
That's
interesting.
Mo Power and not Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez in the Red Bull.
Yeah, we got a Red Bull Premier driver who's been filling in secret. It's very interesting. Interesting also, Green Hornet moving on to the soft tyres. Very aggressive. It should be able to get to the end, but won't be able to push every single lap. We will just need to be a little bit careful that they survive the whole way. So interesting to see where he goes with that. The rest of the drivers just taking those mediums. We should expect maybe one more pit stop, assuming there's no more incidents. We've got Tar Heels on 5 laps softs, which again, unless he's absolutely managing every last inch of those tyres, we'll probably want to do one more pit stop at some point, probably onto a fresh set of softs. But these guys are pretty spread out now, so not much close racing. And we've got 9 laps to go. Any thoughts on what we're watching?
We're watching a runaway.
Well, I guess let me put it to you then, because you are a Tier 1 driver here at Performance Racing League. So, watching this now with Mo Power, who is now pitting onto fresh softs to get into the end of the race. Is this, yes, this is Tier 2, but with this level of dominance, does this concern you at all with the idea of him getting promoted pretty quickly back up to Tier 1 again?
Not necessarily. I think we'd be pretty close to where we're going. His fastest lap is a 1:32.9 on mediums. He's onto the soft now, so I want to see what he's getting. I know the fastest lap was a 1:31.519 in Tier 1. And I got a 1:31.556. So it was very close for me to get that fastest lap. So
interesting. That is a good thing to know. Yeah, it's definitely something we can compare with.
And like you said earlier, it's the preseason race, so maybe, like I said, he's the one who's most prepared and just ready for the season to start. Everyone else is just knocking off the rust, trying to get into a groove, understanding the car they're in, setups, everything. And just making sure they're getting prepared for the start of the season.
Definitely. Also interesting, Suzuki pointing out in the chat that Mo Power has gone on to no assists, so I imagine that was part of the decision to get demoted down to Tier 2. But by the looks of it, he has gotten the hang of his new car setup pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, when you're about a minute ahead of the guys 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, then I would say you've pretty much gotten the hang of it too.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing, that's for sure. As we'll see, we'll keep an eye on Mo Power. We'll just stay on board with him as he starts this new lap, just to see if he does put in a fastest lap, what sort of time he gets. We'll put on his lap delta as well, so we can keep an eye on that. Was it 1:31.5 that you said?
That was the fastest in Tier 1.
In Tier 1, yeah. I mean, obviously, race pace is not always the best idea. Actually, you're coming through the fast lap. Well, that's a perfect timing, because it lets us know what the fastest lap currently is, which is 1:32.8. But that was on medium tyres for Archie Gill, so let's see where these...
Also, another reason he might be so ahead is a lot of the other drivers, such as Archie, Tac Delta, Chaos, got into a little bit of trouble and just found themselves spinning or just, you know, and getting caught up into that lap 1 incident where Markey wasn't able to get a hit on the grid and just be able to get off the line. So
yeah, that is true. It's not just the pace that's got Mo Power here, it is also his lack of mistakes, which a lot of these drivers have fallen foul of. 1:31.4.
So
wow.
He did beat the fastest lap in Tier 1.
He did, which is a pretty important marker, I think, for rating his pace. Yes, it is his last stint of softs, but if he's able to reach that sort of pace, that tells me with his new car setup, he, at least in France, looks very ready for Tier 1.
I will say, obviously, there are a lot of different conditions, such as, you know, track temperature would be higher where the sun is out. For us, it was cloudy for the entire race, so track was colder for us, not a lot of grip to be looked for, so...
Yes. Very much so. I mean, I guess the important thing to note, that if one of these drivers was to get promoted mid-season, they obviously are removed from the leaderboard. So if we do see a runaway lead the first few races of the season for Mo Power, that doesn't mean it's the end for the rest of the drivers. as his promotion will mean that someone by virtue of the promotion will jump to P1 in the standings. So definitely worth noting that it's not always important to look at the competition, and you never know what can happen.
Yeah, race your race who's around you, and get as many points and see where the season takes you.
Yes, very much so. Let's see, we'll jump on board. Who have we not paid much attention to? Let's have a look at some of the new guys. So we'll have a look at Jimmy Pull-Up. We're currently on board with him on the medium tyres. Had, unfortunately, a couple of incidents at the beginning of the race, a couple of spins, I believe, which pushed him towards the back of the grid. But since then, he's been pretty consistent. I've not seen any major issues. So good signs. This is his first race at PRL, so we'll just need to get into the groove of things. I imagine it's not going to be quick straight off the bat. And then we've also got, as we've mentioned, Goldmeyer, the other new driver, who has shown fantastic pace this race.
Yeah, a lot of pace and just consistency.
I imagine if a seat opens up and he is wanting to make the jump to a full-time drive, I imagine a lot of drivers will want to snap him up based on what we're seeing today.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. Yes, we're getting a couple of comments. Apparently, we're getting some deep dive stuff here. We're getting reports of, I believe, Mo Power's time trial time in Monaco is quicker than some of our Premier drivers. This is some deep cut stuff.
I know, looking into the time trial for France, it was looking like I could set a 1:29.1, and from our Season 3 Tier 1 champion, Ankbank, I was 100th of a tenth out of him, so I was very close to him.
Interesting. I guess, yeah, I mean, time trials aren't always a good representation of pace, as some drivers just kind of put 10 minutes into it, some drivers put hours into it, so...
Yeah, because in time trial you get the perfect conditions for everything, so it's... Obviously you can't really prepare that for a race, so it's...
Definitely. I mean, what tends to be your race preparation? What sort of things do you do when you're getting ready for Sunday?
Usually I go throughout the week, spend about 5 minutes in a time trial, making sure I got the setup I want, the way I want the car to feel. And then, usually the day before the race, I do around a 25% race offline, just around the track, just really getting the feel of how the car will drive in race conditions.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point. I think you definitely get quite a variety. Some of these drivers put almost all their time into time trial, but as you said, it's optimal conditions the entire time, so you don't really get to experience tyres overheating, tyres wearing out, and how it feels to, your race pace, I guess. So definitely feel like it's important to try and get some practice time in if you can, and understand how you can manage your car throughout the entire 50% of the race.
Yeah, and last season I was never the best qualifier. I was always down there around 5th, 4th, 6th, just back there in the back. And when it came to race, I was really just shining. That's where I really wanted to be faster in. It's like, yeah, qualifying position is good at tracks like Monaco, Baku, a lot of the street circuits, but places like, France, being up at the front, it's probably the better decision.
Yeah, definitely. All about, patience is key in those situations. There's definitely, France is, I feel like, the exact example of a track where I don't like to be in P1 sometimes, because if you can manage to sit behind someone, you can keep your ERS at a decent level, use the DRS behind them to keep up close, you can manage the race. Whereas if you're at the front of a DRS train, it just completely saps all of your energy and all of your tyres, and you really feel it towards the end of the race, and it really makes you suffer.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of advantages and disadvantages from being in both positions, being the front guy and the guy behind. Like, being the front guy, you've got the cleaner air, your tires aren't going to wear, but then you got the guy behind where you'll be able to manage your ERS more, you'll get the RS. Thing is, with your tires and the dirty air, you'll just have to face so much there.
It looks like we've got Green Hornet in 6th. Was flirting with a move down the inside of the Chaos Druid, but pulled out a little bit. I think he's wanting to just sit behind for now on his soft tyres, not make the move too early.
Yeah, Chaos has 15 seconds of penalties, so it's not a necessity to get on by.
Yeah, no need to throw away, but it does look like Chaos Druid's hard tyres are
around the outside.
Ooh. Interesting.
Just more than likely look for.
There we go.
Mopawa looking to lap them both.
Yes, Chaos Druid looks like he's just struggling a little bit with those hard tyres. Went wide a few of those laps in Sector 3. Kind of opened the door for Green Hornet. Didn't have to push too hard to get it done. You're right though, Mopower is just behind. And should be lapping them soon. I imagine he'll be lapping both of them before the end of the race. As we see, should get DRS here as well. I mean, Chaos Druid does get DRS as well, so won't be able to take advantage. But as we come through, Mopa, oh, and that's Chaos Druid spinning. Definitely struggling on those hard tyres. So Mopower coming through Sector 3 will be starting his last lap as he comes across the line, which will mean a lot of these drivers will be only doing 26 laps this race. Or no, 27, sorry. Yeah, it really has been. I mean, considering he's gone on no assists, I mean, I haven't even seen him locked up once. It's been faultless. Fair play to the man. Let's have a look. Jimmy Pull-Up making a move on Chaos Druid. Oh, a bit of contact. Unlucky.
That's turn 1 and turn 2 for you. That's probably one of the worst places to go side by side, because the turn 2 curb, if you hit it, you're gonna find a way to spin on the exit. But if you go wide, then you're losing out time anyway. It's just one of those, you have to pick and choose your poison, really.
You do. Sometimes, I mean, we saw it earlier with Green Hornet, you know, really biding his time, understanding that sometimes when he had the pace, it wasn't necessarily into the right corner, and it actually, you know, was beneficial for him to just pull back, take his time, and wait for, you know, Chaos Druid to make the mistake so he could get an easy pass.
Yeah.
He will stay on board with Mopower. We have got a few penalties. We'll just have a look at the penalties. Archie Gill on 16 seconds, but well clear of Tac Delta, so should comfortably get that 3rd place. But Mopower coming through the penultimate corner, and he will be crossing the line to win the Tier 2 pre-season testing race here in France at the Paul Ricard circuit. Absolute masterclass, perfection, faultless. Cannot really compliment the man enough. Very well done to him, light years ahead, and I imagine with that level of performance we will see him promoted back up to Tier 1 in no time. Goldmeyer coming through third sector now. Brilliant debut race for him. Qualified well, raced really well. I haven't seen him make a mistake once. And he will come through to take P2. Very, very well done from him. We then have Mr. Archie Gill, who, I mean, again, you have to say, he had a number of spins, but has managed to secure P3. Yeah. So definitely he's got the pace. Definitely one to watch this season. And hopefully the AlphaTauris can have a bit more luck than they have done today. And then we've got in P4 the Papaya car of TAC Delta, who was your commentator for Tier 1. Will come through for P4. Green Hornet will take P5. Tar Heels P6, sorry. Chaos Druid P7. Jimmy Pull up P8. Tar 4, Rusty, Oil Can, Zero Crew and Marky Coastic were your DNFs respectively. Wow. So, with that all done, Mr. Hex, I mean, there's the obvious answer, but based on our prior knowledge and all of the context, who would you say is your biggest surprise package today?
I mean, obviously, obvious answer is Mopawa, but I would say probably the reserve in second, Gold. I mean, coming in reserving, you don't really know what to expect, especially in a preseason race. It's just one of those things. It's you don't know the guys around you. You don't know what they might really bring to the table, and coming out in second is one of those key moments. Obviously, Mopawa just light, like you said, light years ahead of everyone, so couldn't really contend for the win, but still, P2 is definitely great standing.
Yes, very well said. It's hard to see past him, really, as a driver of the day. Thoroughly deserved. Number of penalties you see on the side. We'll just have a look at the incident reports. It is a pre-season race, so not too much harm done for these drivers. But there you have it. That is Tier 2 pre-season. Join us next week in Austria. We'll have the first race of Season 4. Very exciting. It will not be myself in the booth, as I will be on the track, but you'll have voices, I'm sure, that will lead you through it. But yeah, any final words?
I mean, you could be one of those in-car reporters.
I have to get like a wind tunnel sound so it sounds like I'm driving.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I've been Cheryl Shaft. With me has been Mr. Hex, and we'll see you soon.